Boost your energy. This is a real skills workshop to help you be what matters. The things that emotionally matter to you take energy. And so we are getting together in this workshop to explore the skills and the attitudes and the approaches that help you be savvy with your energy, your physical energy, particularly your emotional energy, your mental clarity, and other things coming together so that you get to have the experiences that really matter to you. I'm Rick from Thriving Now. I'm here with Kathy Vartuli from Thriving Now and the Intimacy Dojo.
Hi,
Kathy,
everybody. Yeah, it's great to be here.
did you want to talk about what we mean by energy? Because that can mean a lot of things to people, especially about this idea of boosting it, right?
I think our society has a big drive, and we're always supposed to have energy. We're supposed to push. We're supposed to use willpower, and we're supposed to always 24/7 drink the coffee, eat the sugar, drink the energy drink, whatever, like get going. Should jump out of bed, run all day. You get home, you do something else, you're going, going, going. Just so you know, that's not what we're talking about. Because that's very adrenaline driven. That's very social pressure driven. That's very perform all the time kind of push where our bodies are revving. And often we're using our survival brain, our adrenaline, our cortisol, our fear to drive us, to keep us going. And that can just wear us out. And I have fingers pointing back at me because I've done that so much of my life where, of course, I can work 12 hours really hard and then come home and do some webinars and then record some videos and clean the house and but I was so tired all the time. I was dragging all the time, but I was so fearful that I was pushing myself. The problem was I was burning myself out and I wasn't actually addressing the issues of my fears, my anxieties, my worries. I was using them to kind of push myself to keep going. And that's hard on our bodies. It's hard on our nervous systems. It's hard on our friends. So we're talking about a much more grounded and authentic energy that acknowledges self-care, that acknowledges times we need rest. And there's a natural ebb and flow with that. We're not pinned all the way with our foot on the gas pedal all the way going 110 miles an hour all the time as a minimum. That's acknowledging that there's an ebb and a flow. There's acknowledging that if we put out a lot of energy, which we want to be able to have the energy and the focus to do when it's needed, that we may need to rest. We may need to kind of regather ourselves and give ourselves time to replenish. So kind of like just like an inhale and an exhale, like it's okay to, there may be times when we may need to put out a lot of energy. We may need to scream to get someone's attention or someone's in a bad place. We really want to be there. We want to be able to have the resources to do that. And we also want to acknowledge the self-care that's needed and that we're not just a doing machine. We are beings that have an inflow and an outflow. And it's okay to rev the engine sometimes in primitive brain even, but that we need to come back and let ourselves chart.
Absolutely. And you just touched on it. We're not doing machines, even though that is a big part of the culture. It can be celebrated. Um, I've started watching a lot of nature movies a long time ago. I continue to do that because it helps me recalibrate. Because I think of the cheetah, one of the fastest land animal, and you look at how short a burst of that speed they can actually do without killing themselves.
Yes.
So here they are. This gives them a tremendous advantage. And it's not successful very often, like 1 out of 20 times. And they need to know and feel in their body, hey, I really gave it my all. And now I need to move my energy toward something else. And if you put out a big burst of energy, what's your guess? What would your body need? Well, if you're a cheetah, you need your heart rate to start unwinding. And so you're boosting the energy of from from race to rest
Mhm.
to unwind. It's not run, run, run until you collapse, because that wouldn't be a good survival strategy for the cheetah or us. And yet I did. I ran, 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 ran until I collapsed. And then I had to kind of work out like, oh, that's not the way this body is actually designed.
Mm.
And I think that that's part of what Thriving Now stands for. We want physical vitality, including the vitality to rest and recover, like have a really good sleep. And that takes an energy, right? Like if I'm really in my head at night, I don't need more of a generic boost of energy. It's not the time for me to go brew a pot of coffee. Okay.
Really?
Um, or to, or like I've never had a Red Bull. I suspect that if I took a Bull tonight in order to boost my energy to sleep, that would not work out well. Um, but I do need to boost the energy from the part of me that's here for 90 minutes with you with a 7-minute break. Um, I need to I need to take that energy state, that state of being, and all the doing that happens, the words, the following, the notes, all of that. And I'm going to boost the energy into what? Well, the part of my rest and digest system. And if I don't, I will have a hard time sleeping. And I forget sometimes. But then my body reminds me, say, you're still, all of your energy is running around here. What about like deep in your belly or your core? Like, can you sink as you sit? Can you sink a little bit more? And you can try this. Notice the energy that's in your head and see if you can boost the energy that's more in your core. Taking energy from and imagining. You can just start with just imagining that energy flowing to parts of you that maybe could use a little boost in order to be more present here, in order to take uh, to take in what's right for you. Like I believe when I attend someone else's workshop that there's a filter that I can feel more in my gut and in my heart about what's right for me. And if I'm paying too much attention because it's on Zoom, like, like leaning in and like, the problem with that is that I'll pick up stuff subconsciously, but it's not the same as, that's for me. And if you do that, we'd love to hear in the chat if you're up for that. Like, what are you noticing? It could be a resistance. It could be I don't know how to do this, which is fine. We'll tap on that. Um, but again, my hope is that we start to tune to authentic energy, which is natural. It can be restorative. It can be activating. It can be flowing toward what you really want to do, like a state of being that's just right for what you want to do. And it can also be the kind of energy that puts you in a place of mm, possibility. You notice what I did with my hands here. Like when I think of possibility, this is the posture. It's physical. There's an attitude of I'm sitting with the possibilities of where we go next in this workshop. I get a little smile. My energy is boosting around possibilities. And that is very different than if I'm trying to checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. Nothing wrong with checkbox. I do that too. But yeah, someone said, I feel more aliveness in my core. Uh, uh, that's a boost.
I like that.
Posturability.
I love that you're like, we can feel into our bodies. And I think it's useful. I think if we can just come back, if you let yourself, like Rick was saying, just feel into your body and see how we're not necessarily balanced. There might be energy in some areas where your brain is buzzy, but your body is feeling very sluggish. We can invite. So just like I think energy follows intention often. We can invite it to move to a certain area. And I do believe that we're surrounded by energy around us. Like we can invite some of that in. I notice like if I'm around people I really trust, I often feel recharged and like I'm feeling good and happy and playful. And if I'm with someone I don't feel so safe with, I tend to put up like a shield and I'm not letting so much energy in. So we don't have to necessarily generate all of our energy ourselves. We can invite it from our surroundings and our environment. And also our bodies want to have that balance. Like, so if you'd like to just feel into your body and just notice if there's any places that feel either pinched off or constrained or tense, and just bringing some gentle attention and warmth to those areas. And just asking them, maybe imagine that you're putting your hand on that particular area or putting it there if it reaches easily, and asking what's kind of stopping the flow there. What's holding things back? And sometimes it's habit, or maybe we're sitting in an odd position, or you weren't comfortable, but we get into habits where we kind of constrain the flow in our bodies. So just inviting that to kind of balance throughout your body. And if you want to notice your feet on the floor and imagine that they're just kind of opening up. I like to imagine the centers of my feet are opening up and letting energy flow up from the earth into my body. Just take, if you'd like to close your eyes and take a deep breath and imagine that your feet are opening up and just receiving from the earth this beautiful, for me, it's often cool. I sometimes imagine the scent of pine, whatever you like, what would you like to invite to come into your body and kind of recharge? And then at the same time, you can allow extra energy, things that you have too much of. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's tension, maybe it's stale energy. Imagine that flowing out of your feet or out with your breath, if you like, which you can invite your body to see. Or maybe it's going out at the top of your head like a volcano. Maybe it's old anger that you haven't been able to process. So just imagine this beautiful, cool, clear energy coming in from the earth, fresh and clean. And it's kind of helping push out the energies that maybe you've been held on to, or maybe you're stale or not needed, or you have too much of. And just let your body kind of be with that and get to a place where it feels a little more grounded, a little more filled up with good stuff, and released some of that old stale tension. Just take another nice deep breath. And this can go on. You don't have to always pay attention to it, if that makes sense. You can invite that to continue going on your background. And I just try to check in on it. And sometimes I realize I stop doing it. But if you can make a little habit of inviting that to go on in the background and kind of just checking and, oh, yeah, I turned it off. I'm going to turn it back on. That can really leave you feeling more balanced through the day.
So so, I put the inflow as a boost, and I also consider that there's attention and intention and some work involved in the letting go as well. And you're boosting your energy toward a state that matters to you. And that changes. Oh, as part of this series of workshops, I did have you pick um, a emotional state that matters to you. And I'd like you to tune into it if you have one. If not, you can pick one that's like, oh, I would like to feel more this. That would matter to me, whatever your intuition brings. And notice that it's not unreasonable to know that that will take energy. It will take energy to boost yourself into that state of being. It'll take energy to restore you back to that. If we have a table and there's, someone's, left a lot of crusty stuff all over it, it takes energy to restore the table to being clean and ready to eat on again.
Mhm.
Um, it takes energy to let go of yesterday's meal. There could be clenching, grunting, and work. And I say that because I want because I never had this notion that I'm not just a physical being, that there's energy moving in me. This concept of energy medicine, energy psychology, and the like, um, this was transformational to me because it opened up an awareness that, okay, I've got a headache, but where's my energy? Oh, my energy's all like here, and my neck is like
Mhm.
trying to hold my body. The energy, it was palpable once I asked the question, where's my energy now? And what would it take to like unwinding is a state of being? It's active. And as Kathy says, once you dig the irrigation ditch and you get some flow going in it, you don't have to pay attention to it all the time, but maybe one of the walls collapses and parts of it are being cut off. Um, the meridian system, which has uh, been with human awareness for thousands of years, uh, that's a circuit, it flows. And fundamentally, Chinese medicine is about picking up where you have a lot of energy and where you're deficient and low, and helping you, assisting you in moving it. Tapping is a boost of energy, even if what it's doing is taking you from being terrified to being back in your body. You've boosted the parts of you that say, I'm okay. Does that make sense? There's a whole thought, I'm okay. There's a whole biochemistry, I'm okay. There's a posture. Like if I'm scared, my physical posture is, I'm not okay. Even though I'm not okay, I'm, I'm actually surprisingly safe right here, right now. Oh, wow. Even though those taxes made me feel just really terrified.
Taxes will do that.
Ah, I'm choosing to be calm and confident because that matters to me.
That choosing to be calm and confident, I think that's a very powerful and sustaining place of energy.
Yes.
And so like I think of that, like the calm and confident energy that we're going through, where we can be focused and tuned into what we need to. We may have times it spikes, something emergency may happen. We come back to that. And then there may be times when we allow ourselves to just have a downtime. That was something I really struggled with. I had a really hard time just chilling. Uh, and COVID and
I
so many.
remember.
Yeah, so I was like, no, we have to do stuff. Let's do the next thing.
Here's the 20-page outline for a 1 hour workshop.
Yes, our first couple workshops were like that.
We were very well prepared.
We prepared for like a year-long course for an hour course. Um, but I think
Now
that if
and
we
now
can,
we're on 3x5 cards.
yeah, we'll just like a little post-it with some notes. So, it only took 16 years. But I think if we can envision our life as a place where we're allowing energy and sustaining energy in from the environment around us, from the earth, from the air, from the here it's rainy. I just love to imagine that rain kind of washing away old things I don't need. Um, from people around us that love us, from the food we eat, the air we breathe. It's all like it's sustaining us and giving us more energy. But then if we can just see ourselves as kind of like, we want to come back. We want to have this baseline of calm and confident with some spikes up, some lulls down where we recover, but just kind of like a gentle fluctuation around that space. And knowing that if we do have to go to a sustained, like there's been times when I've had to have 3 or 4 days of really high output. Okay, let me plan a weekend where I can just be really quiet. I'm going to curl up with a book. I'm going to, make sure I take care of myself and replenish myself. So I think that if we can, I love that EFT keeps coming back to that calm and confident. And I think that grounded, authentic energy flow. I know that I get a lot more done when I'm in that space of calm confidence where I can sit down, I can look at things logically versus I would often be in the past, I would be very frenetic and adrenaline and I would get a lot done, but it was bouncing around and doing a little bit of this and this and this and having to retrace that. And so I really think that when I can come in a calm, confident way, I get more accomplished with less expenditure and less wear and tear on my system.
Yeah. Oh, so
Are you tapping into
I
it?
see I see some people that I know do activities that, whether it's art or, martial arts or, other types of, um, project management and all kinds of things. Um, I'm wondering if you want to share in the chat, like, what's something that you have found that helps you boost energy toward being in that state, like in your creative artwork? Is there something physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually that boosts your energy in that direction of that state of being? Not the doing necessarily of it, but but helps prepare you to be in the state of being that is has got flow and energies available to that what matters to you.
Mm.
Anyone have anything?
Love to see what people doing artwork and dance.
I read on Twitter today a person who writes a lot, and they said that they go for a walk before they ever sit down to write. That walking, um, uh, their partner said to them, "That only took you 10 minutes? How?" And, "No, I walked for an hour, and then I came back and my state of being was exactly right." There is that moving energy, boosting energy into the physiology and the getting all the things attuned to. For them, the writing act is one that, um, is ripened after the walk.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Um,
Art play with friends. Mhm.
uh, journal, guided meditations, tapping, abstract painting. Um, I love art play with friends. That's really lovely. I had a friend here for a couple days and we just had a lovely time and it was really we were both very easy. So sometimes we kind of debrief about we were both doing coaching sessions at one point. We kind of debriefed about like I felt like I did a good job or I was struggling with getting this concept across without giving any confidentiality. How could you think I could explain this better? Like it was the kind of breathe and then other times we would sit and watch we watched Never Have I Ever, which is a Netflix show that was quite lovely. Um, but like we were alternating between like kind of digging deep and brainstorming with each other about how to do a better job and also like playing, like just kind of like, oh, let's binge watch this for another couple episodes. I should go to bed, but let's watch one more. So there was like, I don't know, that felt left me feeling really recharged as well. So that like kind of co-creation in play and in like, I love co-creating with you, Rick. That's really fun for me. Someone said I do martial arts, things that get me ready to go for class and events or things getting changed into the costume, the gi, and going on onto the mat, the new warm-ups and greeting everyone, getting used to the idea of being there. It's like a ritual in a way. Yeah, I love that. Like, there's ways we can kind of line ourselves up, and I love the idea of, uh if we want to get work done and we're having trouble with it, we can create a ritual that helps us drop in faster. Like, is it lighting a candle? Is it like sitting in a particular place or I put on my pink playlist. I love pink. If I need to clean my house or get something done like taxes that I don't like to, I like put that on and that's like I drop in really fast. My brain has learned that we play pink, we get stuff done, and we jam out to it. So ritual is great.
Well, and that leads us to, like, why do we have to do it this work? Why, what? And, um, well, coming to understand that in the human brain, we not only have a primitive brain, which I think has been so conditioned through our schooling and everything else. As I look back at my whole school experience, I was in my primitive brain most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not a surprise that when I went into business for myself, that I brought that same kind of energy pattern. We have a big swath of our thinking brain called the default mode network, and it says, well, what do we do without thinking them?
Yeah.
And so if somebody comes home and they sit down and they grab the remote control and they turn on Netflix, um, that's in the default mode network.
Mhm.
Are the things that we do regularly unconscious, uh, it's not even I don't think the unconscious is necessarily the right expression for me. To me, it's like, well, what do I do if I'm not thinking about it? When I get up in the morning, I go and I make my coffee. That's in my default mode network. If I wanted to change that, I would need to boost energy in a different way. And so acknowledging that there's a skill of practicing make it a ritual if a ritual works for you. Um, make it a activation, like when I walk into the room or I do this. Um, it can be something that when you find yourself, like for me, I'm so improvisational that I've been practicing eagerness. So for me, eagerness is not part of my default mode. I am working consciously with skill to get it there. And what I notice is that I have associated now, if I'm overwhelmed looking at my to do list, unclear about what I am to do, the pattern for me is like, well, what matters to me? Be what matters of these tasks, which is the work that matters to me right now, like has that accessibility. Oh, I'm grateful for the opportunity. And then I can lean in. I have to actually, even if I'm sitting in a meditative posture or with a computer in my lap, I need to lean in a little bit and physically change my posture
Mhm.
to activate something that feels to me as that, like the spark. Eagerness, I've come to understand, is not like a state of being that lasts a long time. It's like that very potent moment when you go from this is a match to this is a lit match. Like,
Not
man. But that's not where it ends. Now I'm going to be putting it to the what matters. And as soon as I get some energy boosted around the what matters, it's acting as an activation energy for me. I don't stay in what I would call the eager state. That's just me. Some people are eager much of their lives. My 9-year-old. Um, whew,
But I
um,
think we can also reinforce the neural pathways that create that.
yes, it's become easier and easier now that I'm aware of, oh, I have this energy. It wants to express, like overwhelmed to me is like it feels like this, and like what matters to me brings the energy down into my heart. So now more of that energy is going down into my heart.
Mhm.
And as it boosts the energy here, my vision changes and I'm clearer. My mental clarity, because there's less noise, I've moved the energy down. It can point to that one. That's the one that we're right for. It's it's next. And if I then, like, it matters to me to be eager about my life, like it just feels more alive and meaningful to me to have that little spark rather than uh okay, gotta grab this sledgehammer and work my way into the hard labor of my life, which I
Oh,
can which isn't true, but I can certainly, um, I can certainly wind myself into that. Um, does that make sense?
yeah. I like how you're employing that. Um, and we kind of touched on it a little bit already, but I want to emphasize that we like when Rick's trying to get things done, uh, he's done his over 800 days now on his morning mile. So that's a physical exertion, but also there's emotional too, I think, especially until we get into the habit of it. Doing something new can feel scary or unusual. And if we have a default mode of like going to laying on the couch or on the bed and just kind of collapsing, changing that, even if we're taking baby steps, which Rick and I always encourage, like, okay, maybe you walk around the house once, or you like, you know, I have a treadmill right here. Maybe I do a couple minutes of treadmill before I lay on the bed. Any change like that is going to take some energy, that's psychic, like emotional, mental energy to do, our willpower. If we keep doing it though, that amount of willpower goes down because there's a habit. The neural pathways actually grow that way.
Yeah.
And there's still the energetic output of like physically walking, and our bodies are very adaptive. So one of the things that happens is someone will start walking, and the body learns to do it more efficiently and it gets in shape, so it's less energy needed for that. So if we want to build good habits that will sustain us in our life, that doesn't mean we need to run a marathon every day, but maybe we start associative things can help. So if every time I brush my teeth, I tap, they become linked, and then I only have to remember to do one, and then they become linked, and I do them together. So if I walk through whatever your schedule allows, but if I walk through the door and instead of collapsing on the couch and watching TV, I first get on the treadmill for a little bit of time, that after a while, walking through the door becomes associated with that. And it's amazing how powerful that is. For a while, was listening to this particular podcast that was encouraging me to do too much for my body. But every time I'd hear that podcast, I'd want to get on the treadmill because I used to listen to it on the treadmill. Um, so just remember, we can link things together to kind of like, I don't know if you know when people bike race, they race right behind each other to kind of draft at each other. There's less energy needed. And the other thing is and I do this all the time. I think however hard it is today is how hard it's always going to be for the rest of my life. So if it's like, oh my God, this is so hard
This
to get
is
on the
so
treadmill.
hard. Would you
Oh
lead us
my
in a
God. And I
tapping on
want
that
to do
one?
it. Yes, yes, let's do some tapping.
It's so hard to be that today.
It's so hard to be
Go
that today.
ahead.
Okay. I thought you were going to lead it.
Yeah.
Credit job. Even though I'm convinced it's always going to be this hard.
Even though a part of me is convinced it will always be this hard
No
and
wonder
awkward.
I'm, no wonder I'm really resistant to this.
No wonder I'm always resistant to this.
Maybe I'll be okay.
Maybe I will be okay.
Maybe it will get easier.
And maybe it will get easier.
Even though I am so resistant, I don't want to do this.
Even though I'm so resistant, I don't want to do this. It's too hard.
What if it will get a little bit easier each day?
What if it will get a little easier over time? I'm not
And
willing
I
to say each day.
and I might
Hasn't
be
been my experience.
I might be really surprised later on how easy it has gotten.
I might be really surprised later on how easy it has gotten.
Top of the head, I have so much resistance.
I have so much resistance.
Eyebrow, I don't want to let this energy flow.
I don't want to let this energy flow.
Side eye, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
And yeah, I feel tired just thinking about it.
I feel tired just thinking about it.
Under the nose. And I do want to start moving forward with this.
And I want to start moving forward with this.
Jen, what if I can just take it in baby steps?
What if I can just take it in baby steps
Collarbone, and allow myself to notice how much easier it's getting.
and allow myself to notice how much easier it's getting?
Under there, let my survival brain actually notice I'm surviving doing this.
Let my survival brain notice I'm actually surviving doing this.
Top of the head, because it's convinced I'm going to die if I walk on that treadmill.
Yeah. Uh, I'm going to be punished.
But it's whatever it is for you. But I do know that my survival brain can be very dramatic at times. And if I say like, "Oh, I want to do that," it's like, "Oh my God, it's every day. It's going to be so hard. I'll be so tired. I want energy." And I'm like, "Really? 2 minutes on the treadmill today? Like, that's so hard." And then before I had heard myself, I was at 30 minutes a day really easily, like just gradually increasing, and my body was really enjoying it. And now my knee is finally healed and I'm ready to get back on the treadmill. And my survival brain is like being such a diva. And I try to be kind to it. And some days I'm like, "Really? Really? You're that terrified to get on the treadmill? We've done this before. It's not that hard."
Yeah.
So, just if we can notice that there's a lot of drama in our heads sometimes, and the fear of that dramatic thing can be like, "Oh, I just don't even want to go there," versus gently stepping forward into whatever you want to create and things that would be worthwhile to you. That's worth putting out some energy for.
You said about, like, when people are bike racing, um,
They draft.
and there's, to me, the real skills, if you have a skill that you've been working on, like, maybe it's I can I can give myself, space, and right now that looks like I go and I lie down, right? You can add to that, well, I go and lie down. By adding to that, like, when I go lie down, it's an awareness, I'm needing, wanting, and taking space. I'm giving myself, like, I call it a horizontal reset. Now imagine I lie down like, "Oh, I'm so tired, I just can't face this." Um, just the act of lying down is does change us, right? Like, our physiology, our breathing, the way that gravity works in our body, it is going to do something. When you add the layer of, "Well, what do I wanna call this?" "I'm hiding." Well, that's yes, and that's your primitive brain maybe. Um, what are you doing on the positive side when you lie down? "Oh, well, I'm giving myself a chance to regulate." Well, what could you add? Where in your body could use a boost of regulating comfort energy? Um, so for example, I may need to hold a part of my body or 2 parts of my body need to, meaning it's so strong when I tune into it that it feels like so right. It's like it's so right to hold myself right there. And you're like, "Oh, wow, okay. That really is a reset." And then you start coming up with, yep, you tell people instead of, "I'm gonna go lie down, I'm gonna go give myself a horizontal reset." I
Yes.
assure you that people react to that a little differently.
And a
It's
nap.
weird, right? Um, and you're tuning yourself a little differently too. Like, a nap means something. A horizontal reset for me, you get to decide what that looks like, what it sounds like, what it what it's like for you to change your state of being. Um, and yeah, there's a if you're having trouble, like, again, I could not go from overwhelmed to eager about something. There is no pathway. Okay. There's no bridge across the Grand Canyon, and it felt like that. But I can ground myself and I can notice what matters to me because I was practicing what matters. And um, when I would not want to go on the morning mile, one, I was free to not go. It wasn't 800 days straight. There were a few days when I had COVID. Definitely was not my body's desire to go do that. Um, I think one time when I was sick, I gave myself credit for the morning mile because I walked outside, just walked outside, took a few breaths of fresh air, so like 15 steps, and that was my morning mile. And sometimes I go 2 miles. But I shared in the email, and it's on the the page where we're describing this as well. I needed a stack of whys because some days Um, like I may be just like so tired of parenting that the idea of living a long and vital life for my children, w- actually, there's no, like, that's not going to get me on the trail, right? But to let nature reset my nervous system, to be able to replenish myself with some beauty, to be able to shake it out and in a different space, to tune in to my guidance about where to go and how long to walk and really tune into my body. So when you have, and I know that some of you are not writers, you don't tend to think in terms of lists, make a song out of it or something, but I have noticed very consistently that um, if in all the cases where I had trouble being consistent with something, I did not have a list of whys that meant enough to me across my life to be able to find a pathway to boost my energy. Inspiration is one way, but also encouragement and just that gentle, compassionate reminder that this is good for me. And then when you go out, I remember the first time that I went out when it was ugly raining, like cold, wet, in your face rain, where Rick would never have gone out before. But one of my lists was I want to experience nature and know that there's no bad weather. There may be weather that's unsafe that I wouldn't go out in, but a rain like that with the right gear, which I had, I didn't want to always feel repulsed by weather that wasn't perfect. I still remember about 500 yards into it, I looked at and I am just drenched and it's cold, but the energy that was in that woods, big pine trees, you were talking about smelling pine. I stopped, I felt it. I felt like, there is nobody else out here. And I'm getting to experience nature in a way that I've never experienced it before. And there was also that sense of I'm living my why. I'm being in my why, what matters to me. Um,
I think it can be helpful if that's like I've had moments of flow where it was just so easy to get things done and I didn't experience it being heavy or hard. So just noticing what those are for you could be a good way to kind of go, huh, where can I get some good flow? Where can I help my body? Because I think if we're really stuck, I work with a lot of people that are in business. Um, it's like if we're stuck, that it's hard to get forward. But if we can get a little trickle going, we can start getting a little bit of a stream and move it. So like thinking about places and times when you've had some good flow and inviting that for yourself and try to set that up can be really helpful. And I think kindness, and someone said they loved how I talked with when I try to be kind to my primitive brain. There are times when I'm like, serious, I just over it. Um, but I do know that
which is good boundaries.
it's okay to tell like you're like, dear, I love you and no, you can't color on the wall. Though I still feel a little guilty because I could have painted them afterwards and she really wanted to. Um, But, she was here, she asked to color on my walls, and I told her no, and she went into such dejection and disappointment when you're 2.
You did that
Um,
for me. Just
um, some kindness for ourselves about our energy flow, and if we have blocks, our survival brain is really trying to help us. These patterns we have, I do a lot of, integration by parts, work with parts therapy, we talk about younger selves a lot. Whatever's blocking us is really doing it because it thinks it's gonna help us. It's gonna protect us from something that's scary. And maybe we learned that, like, we had a lot of exuberance when we were little, and someone was like, "Whoa, that's too much." Or they were like, I was maybe mom was so tired seeing the kid with a lot of energy. It was like, like, where are you getting this energy from? They felt jealous, maybe your parent felt jealous, whatever it was. We could have been judged very harshly for having energy. And that's one of the blocks that can come up. And then also, like, when we have a lot of energy, people expect a lot out of us sometimes. So it's like, oh, if I show I have energy to do this, they're going to want me to do it all the time forever. So if I don't, like maybe I shouldn't feel too much energy. It's protective. I would often get sick when I visited home because I didn't have good boundaries. And they would want me to do all this work, this labor, and I didn't know how to say no. And as I got to learn how to say no better, there was some conflict because my parents really liked me doing all this work, but I didn't have to get sick, which is a way to get away from it, if that makes sense. Like, my body would go, "If the only way to protect you is to get you ill, I'm gonna get you ill. I'm gonna make sure that you can't do
Mhm.
this."
Yeah.
So, just talking about the easy flow and getting, we can build habits, but also getting some movement, feeling the energy flow. When it's stagnant and kind of stuck in our body, it doesn't feel good. I think we get aches and pains, and then we don't want to move because it hurts. But sometimes when, like, my knee has been stiff because I hurt it a while ago, and now the pain is gone, but I'm still stiff if I sit for a while. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be stiff. I don't want to face it. But I know if I get up and move, it's actually going to get better. So wisdom is knowing the difference between it's hurt and need to rest it. And it's no longer hurt. It's just stiff and we've got to work through it. But if you're not experiencing the kind of energy you want, it could be that you just need to get it jump started a little bit. And maybe finding a moment of flow can help you with that.
Um, we're going to take a break here in a moment. I'd like to do a tapping. Um, it feels like that the core reminder to myself that, like the cheetah, like my own heart rate, which varies from 58 beats per minute to 184 beats per minute, depending on what I'm doing. I'm not designed. You're not designed to operate at a boosted, steady state. And so I use tapping to remind myself that it's really human and natural to have energy that that goes up and then is naturally comes down and rises and that's not a defect. So you can try this out. This is one of my little tricks with tapping is I'll say something out loud, especially if I'm tuned to it, like it's a defect that I can't always have the energy that I want to have. It's a defect.
It's a defect and see how it feels.
Yeah, and feel how true it is. So if it feels like 10, oh yeah, it's a defect. I got to fix this.
Yeah.
Um, that would be a clue. And when I work with people that have a real lethargy problem or depression problem, often that's at a 10. The problem is that that's inhuman to always have the energy that you want to have to do everything that you want to do. That's not human. That's not even a machine. Um, there's very few machines that operate at that utilization rate. Um, even though a part of me might believe
Even though part of me might believe
that I should always have all the energy I need
that I should always have all the energy I need
and all the energy I want.
and all the energy I want.
And to, uh, and I've judged myself when I haven't had the energy.
And I have judged myself when I haven't had the energy.
What if it's not a defect?
What if it's not a defect?
Top of the head. What if it's not a defect?
What if it's not a defect?
Eyebrow. A cheetah doesn't run at 70 miles an hour
A cheetah doesn't run in 70 miles per hour
for a 50-minute
for,
session
for a 50-minute session.
side of the eye. They go in short bursts.
They go in short bursts.
And I'm not a cheetah.
I'm not a cheetah,
On the nose. And I am an animal.
and I am an animal.
Chin, I am part of the natural world.
I am part of the natural world.
I sometimes forget.
I sometimes forget.
Hey, I want to boost my energy toward calm
I want to boost my energy towards cool.
under the arm. I love being able to boost my confidence,
I love being able to boost my confidence.
top of the head. A little eagerness can go a long way,
A little eagerness can make it go a long
but
way.
I don't have to stay there.
It don't have to stay there.
Eyebrow. Oh, I have so many different colors and tones
I have so many different colors and tones.
out of the eye. I'm in the process of accepting me
I am in the process of accepting me.
under the eye and having more savvy with my energy
I'm having more savvy with my energy,
under those, where I can move it
where I can move it,
and how I can move it
how I can move it,
all alone. How I can feel my stillness
how I can feel my stillness
and my rhythms.
and my rhythms.
What if I'm not defective at all?
What if I'm not defective at all?
Hmm.
I mean, I like that because I think that our society is very, very driven on that. And so, like, we should have energy. Like, all the ads on Facebook and on TV is like, get your energy back. Get you, there's something wrong with you. You have to take this pill or do this activity or whatever to get to the place where you were, like have the energy of a 21-year-old on caffeine. And it's like, what if I'm great just where I am? I can be smarter and steady about things rather than trying to adrenaline myself through everything.
So everyone's body is different. There was a person on the elliptical trainer when I showed up at the gym the other day. They had been going for an hour and 27 minutes at a pace that would be my peak pace. And they were just, their energy was like, I'm in it. And when they stopped, they got off and they did the ritual. They wiped down the machine. You could tell that they were like bringing themselves to completion. Now, my body does not like that kind of exercise, but theirs does. And I think that when you notice um, energy boosts, our dear friend Eve, it's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Eve. She spends time with Adira, and she said something that she used to drive herself, like that sense of not being enough is a kind of artificial driver. It's not natural. I don't think that that's a natural impulse. It's domesticated. Um, uh, and yet we have it as a culture. So many of us have that feeling, and it acts as a driver. But she said once when she realized that she could just be in growth and engagement, that she could be expressing her art and then get that impulse to move her energy to like rest or to music or to nature or and when she reestablished that natural rhythm, just a little increment, she started to notice something about her chi, her energy field, that she would already start feeling more vitality as she was heading into rest. That the chi would there was this there's a she's a sensitive person, and she could feel her body boosting its energy, even though on the outside, what she's doing is becoming less active, mentally becoming less active, going to more of a still point, a still place. And that was my experience too, that there's a difference between what we've tended to think of as a boost of energy, Red Bull, um, and actual chi, life force being boosted and boosted to give all the things that life force is meant to do. Repair new cells, strengthening, creativity, all the good stuff. And so, as we go out for our 7-minute break to move our bodies, if that's what you want to do, or minds, or whatever, I'm inviting you to consider again, what is it that you want to experience more of emotionally in as a state of being, an energy state of being? And um, as we've talked about this, is there anything that comes up to you as a block or a significant resistance to you actually actively boosting your energy toward that state?
Really
Okay.
good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to pause the recording. And if you're on the recording, hi, thank you for joining us. And we invite you to take a 7-minute break here too. We'll be back.
See you soon.
Welcome back to Boost Your Energy. Um, we are bioelectromagnetic energy. That's the stuff that we're made of. And there's an intelligence there, and there flows. And in anatomy school, they teach you things about lymph and blood. Um, if you go to a different school of thought, they'll talk about meridians and chi and um, vessels and all kinds of other things. Um, to to even acknowledge that we are energetic beings and that there are things that happen automatically. There are things that sometimes get out of balance, and it's harder to be back in what you would call um, natural homeostasis. Um, and it can feel, someone shared that, once I lie down, I may not feel like I can do anything. And that does feel like a defect. Um, the approach that we have at Thriving Now and the energy approach is, if you're sitting there, if you're lying down and you don't have the energy to do, chances are that is like a bridge too far.
Mm.
But what if, and I don't know that this is always true, but what if there's a change in your state of being, however subtle, that would take energy from one place where maybe it's causing distress, um, and allow it to flow into areas where it could build your resource, rebuild your resource. For example, if I'm lying down and I have things, a long list of things that I wanted to do that day, and I say, oh man, I can't believe I'm not getting up and doing those things. I really need to get them done. Now that's a state of being. I'd call it, you know, fretting, worrying, self criticism. Uh, so I am in a state of being that has a particular energy to it. Now, I could go in the direction of compassion, right? Like, oh, well, Rick, you were up all night with your daughter in the sleeping hours, right? Buddy, hey, buddy, give yourself a break. It could be, I know myself. It's time for a horizontal reset. I know myself. Like, that's a certain kind of confidence. I know myself. It's time for a horizontal reset. Can you feel that energetically the state of being there is going to it's a bit like changing the channel on your or the playlist that you're on. It changes our energy. I do not I want to live in a world where more of us are supporting each other. Like, yeah, it it sounds to me that your state of being doesn't support doing a lot of work on your playlist on your to-do list right now. What is your body calling for? What state of being would be a reset for you or replenishing? Lying down. Hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like lying down on the sofa or lying down in bed would be better? Oh, and as you're lying down, do you want to be like conscious and feeling your body, or do you want to be kind of in ocean waves? Do we want to put on some music? Now, to me, this doesn't fall, it falls into self-care, but in the most kind of gross way. To me, this is self-savvy. This is about like, I have energy, it moves, and sometimes it doesn't. What do I do with it? And acceptance is another pathway that I think tapping helps build up. And I deeply, even though I'm lying down and I can't do shit, I deeply and completely accept myself. Ah, man, I did that for 20 minutes once. And then I laughed because I was actually doing something. I was tapping. um, and it was like, oh, okay. Um,
I think that
there's, uh,
um I, I don't want to interrupt your flow if you had something you wanted to
I'm
share.
good.
Um so like Rick has been dealing with having a 2-year-old or a little baby, so he's very tired all the time. Sometimes we can get really stuck, and so he has like a looking at his life from the outside, it's very clear that the man needs to do horizontal reset sometime and take a nap. For some of us, it may be that we're kind of stuck emotionally, or our body may be afraid of moving more if that's something we want, more physical energy. And one of the things that was really delightful for me when I hurt my knee, I was feeling very frustrated because I couldn't work out, or I wasn't able to do a lot of things I usually did. And my chiropractor was just like, how about you stretch, lay in bed, and you don't have to put any pressure on your knee, but you can like stretch in bed. You can do leg lifts on on both legs. Actually, it was fine for me, in bed. So if you want to be in bed and that's an easy place for you to be, uh, what could you, and, like maybe you could let yourself feel safe in bed, but you could also get a little bit of motion going.
Mm,
And again, if you're always pushing yourself to do more, maybe you just need that horizontal reset, that chance to reset, and then maybe you can come back and do a little more later if that's right for you. But sometimes I've just been really stuck. And one of the things I think we tend to do as humans is if we're not flowing our energy, if we feel stuck, we want to avoid that feeling of being stuck. We want to run away from it. And sometimes just being with that feeling can be very powerful. So if you'd like to try, is it okay if we just do
yep.
a quick, if you think of what area in your life you feel really stuck, and most of us have something where we're just not moving ahead with it. Think about how you feel when you're trying to approach that. Notice what's going on in your body. Does your body feel tight? Do you feel, like, are you gritting your teeth? Are you telling yourself certain thoughts or feeling certain sensations in your body? And if you'd like to, we're just going to do like 20, 30 seconds. Just with the support of the circle, just step into that feeling of feel the suck for 20 seconds with me if you're willing. Rather than avoiding it
The
using,
suck stuck,
yeah,
the suck of stuck.
right. So rather than avoiding it, running away, pretending, denying, just for the moment, step into it and breathe. And just feel the feeling of like, oh, this is not what I want to feel. This is not what I want to be doing. Just 10 more seconds. See if you can just be with it. See if you can tolerate that feeling. Breathe into it. All right. And then you can just step out, maybe shake out your hands if that feels good, or kind of brush it off. Um, and just notice how you feel. Sometimes me just stepping into it when I like, oh, I face that, I feel like a little lighter. Sometimes I'll notice that there might be anger or sadness that I'm not wanting to feel underneath of that stuck. Like one of the reasons I have been somewhat resistant getting on the treadmill is I'm a very somatic person. When I start moving my body, I feel feelings that I may not want to feel. Anger, sadness might come up. So if I stay still, I don't have to feel those feelings. And if I start moving, I would feel them again. But if I'm willing to be with that kind of sucky, stuck feeling, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I can handle these feelings. Okay, I'll get on the treadmill for a little while. So I just wanted to point out that, sometimes, like Rick is like, maybe I do need to reset. Maybe I need to rest a little before I have some energy to expend. And if that's clear, if you know that's not the case, or you can just try it, like, oh, can I do 10 leg lifts on both sides? And then see if I want what I want to do from there. Did it give me more energy or less? Did feelings come up or no? And if I intend to do the leg lifts and I'm just not doing them, can I be for 20 seconds with that, stay with the suck feeling and just breathe through it and then see where I'm at? Can I do leg lifts now? Or do I need to do some tapping in one of the circle calls with Rick, or what's coming up for me? Because we do plug our energy flow if we think flowing with that energy will bring us feelings or experiences that we don't know that we're ready for. And building up some skills and tolerance for that can be really useful.
Mhm. And I'm reminded for me when I'm in that suck of stuck, as you said, um, there's the sadness and sometimes the unwinding of the be regret or whatever that it hasn't happened yet, or that you wish things were different. Um, and part of this workshop series is about returning to what matters to you. And maybe it isn't the hard one that you're working on. Maybe it's one that you own a bit more. Like I'm I'm naturally generous and appreciating and kind. Like those things are things that I own. I'm not that all the time. There's no pressure, but something I can tap into. Um, so that's where if I can't get to eager, I can feel the sadness, as Kathy just described. Meditation usually takes me into those things. It's a big part of my life. And then there's well, maybe I can't feel eager about this. What could I, like for me, appreciate? What could I appreciate? It's not life or death. Yeah, I've got the freedom to not do it. I've taken that freedom. Now, sometimes the things that you come out that you're appreciating or that you're um that I don't think we're going to see that as a Hallmark card, you know. And that's but for me, my emotional savvy is that I often need to acknowledge that the resistance is coming from a part of me that really wants me to be safe, that wants to, and for me, preserving my energy. Like eagerness is, um, it's got chi to it. It's an expression. I'm about to light the match, and then we're going to use the match. Maybe it'll blow out, but um, it's a way of acknowledging and helping that part of me um, feel like its resistance has been acknowledged, and that's not where I have to operate from. Most of the thriving emotions are not ones that are, uh, primitive brain driven. Um, Overcoming all odds, that's kind of a fight energy. Whereas the kind of wise fearlessness that some of you are wanting, that to me comes from a different energy mix. It's a different genre of being alive. Um, that's the way I experience it.
Yeah. I know that we didn't get into a lot of tapping and working on blocks to energy per se. We talked a lot more about energy and kind of the flow and different ways to approach it. Next, our next call will be about removing blocks in general.
Clearing your
And
blocks to being what matters.
and I think that one of the big blocks to being what matters is finding the energy. Like I often have, I really want to do this, this, and that, and I don't have the energy of, I've run out of energy for that particular thing. So I invite you, if you're watching this, over the next couple weeks, notice where you have the desire to move forward and you still don't it feels like the gas isn't connected. The gas pedal is not connected to the engine, so to speak, because there's often in that case, there's a block to the energy flow. And we've often learned those energy is so, connected to our subconscious. It's the neural pathways, the nerves in our body that help in the cells of our body that create this energy, the mitochondrial DNA we have. It's like um, all of that is, I think, I think it's very strongly affected by what subconscious beliefs we have, what fears our survival brain has. So there can be a lot of blocks to that. And I've noticed, and I'm curious how many people have, if you want to share in the chat, have you noticed you have tons of energy for one thing, and then someone asks you to do this one thing and you just feel the energy drain out of your body? Um, so that's a time I see some people saying yes. Um, and it's like, wait, what happened? And to me, it's like, okay, is there a boundary I need to set? Like, hey, mom, I love you, but I don't want to do that thing. I can, or is it, I would really love to do that thing, but there's something in me that thinks it's not safe. I don't deserve it. Or what is going on that someone pulled the plug on, like drain my gas tank immediately. And then I can go back to the first thing I was doing and I've got my energy goes right back up.
Yeah.
Or it might be a slow, like it might be the residual drain from that thing that were just like the gas pedal foot disconnected. So I invite you, like we've talked a lot about energy and different types of energy. And most people that talk about energy are not going to talk about it from this perspective. This is kind of a pragmatic, we're somewhere between the woo-woo, we're talking some woo-woo stuff, but we're also very practical. Like we're somewhere in this middle range. And the more data you can gather over the next couple weeks over where you are, what you notice, and I invite your brain to kind of draw this to your attention. I'm talking to your subconscious too. Can you notice when, oh, I have plenty of energy to watch TV or to like shop or do something that's quote unquote fun or sometimes bad, like, oh, I shouldn't do this, so it's really fun to do it. And when is it like, oh, this feels really, really heavy? And I notice myself when I feel really stuck. Sometimes when I'm think about something too much, it's really, really heavy to do it. Versus other times I forget about it and I just get it done and it's no energy at all. So like our thoughts and our beliefs can really get in the way of this. So I invite you to like take some data. Like I I'm a big fan of post-it notes, and I'll just grab a few and I'll just write, oh, Monday, 8 a.m. Really wanted that coffee, but I really wanted to sleep a few more minutes. And, I convinced myself that if I didn't get that sleep, I was going to be grumpy all day. Whatever, like just notice where your energy, which was maybe okay. And then you think about something and it goes down, or there's a certain task and your energy goes down. Gathering that data and being conscious of it as we go through clearing the blocks will really help you target in. Because one of the tricks our subconscious does is it blocks it, it hides it from us. If we're not consciously aware of it, it's a lot harder for us to work on it. It's a lot harder for us to tackle it. So if we can kind of keep it hazy and unaware, there's a barrier of protection around the thing that we most want to clear. So the more you can get a little data gathered, the more we'll be able to target in and clear some of this for you.
Mm. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Um, Someone wrote, I appreciate I am not alone in this moment right now with the circle. And that's why we come together.
Yeah.
I do believe that this work is better together. I appreciate all of you for showing up and putting some of your life and lifetime and life energy into co-creating this with us. Um, our inbox is open. especially to help us tune to what's coming up for you as we head into month of this next month of workshops. Uh, we're clearing blocks. Uh, it's a very important part of it, and mm, I've I'd love to say that it's easy, but we've all know that it's not there's nuances and challenges and subconscious and other things. I will say that though that as you get the data that matters to you and to your nervous system and to your way of being, and you expand what you look at rather than the judgment and thought field. Like I used to spend so much time just thinking about something, and I really didn't have a connection between my thoughts and my body. As Kathy just had us be with a feeling, the emotions, like where you feel it in your body, um, that shifts things. And it's not complicated as you figure out the skill as it works for you, then you can be eager, but you'll know that you're not going to go from overwhelmed directly to eager. You're going to go here and then here and here and here and here because your pathway that is a delight for you, that all along that way, like if I go from overwhelmed to calm and grounded, that's something that matters to me and it's a skill I practice. If I go from a bit more grounded to, well, what could I be grateful for? Oh, well, that, and I activate my appreciator, and then I'm like, well, what matters to me here? Okay, yeah, it really does. This does matter to me. It matters to how I want to be in community um, and finding um, movements, making your body part of the instrument of who you are. Um, I didn't used to put my hand on my heart nearly as much as I do, but I find that this and also just like starting to tap my collarbone, these are signals to my body of a state of being. It boosts the energy toward a state of being that matters to me, calm and confident. Um, I don't have to think about if I start getting anxious about something, everyone who's close to me knows that I start tapping my collarbone points. Often that's enough. I don't have to process it and talk about it. Um, I know that if something's running around in my head, that sharing it out loud, even if I'm the only one on the trail, I share it out loud, that working the energy of my throat and my throat chakra and my heart and my truth, um, that's enough. Um, And every one of these little incremental skills makes they certainly make me feel like this energy of who I am as a human being and how I operate in the world, that, I am the co-creator with my body. It has sometimes a mind of its own, um, but I'm a co-creator. There's a relationship. I'm 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 in relationship with you all. In relationship with the trails that I walk. I'm in relationship with the energies of my world, both ones that I craft and ones that are part of it. And that kind of empowered thriving, practical, and embracing what we've come to understand and re-understand about the energy of who we are in body, mind, and spirit, and the world that we live in with its realities and unwanted realities, and how we be with that. That to me is a profound work that impacts everyone that you love. Every little increment that you change impacts the people, whether they realize it or not. Their default mode starts shifting when someone in their world becomes more calm and confident, especially in situations where they maybe weren't as calm and confident before. And it's really cool to notice how you're influencing people, whether they realize it or not, in how you tune yourself and the rituals and other greetings and other things that you start doing.
I love that. Oh,
Mhm.
just as we're leaving, I had asked you to kind of tune into some of the things that are blocking you. And someone said, I barely have energy for washing up or cleaning the floors. And just reminding me that sometimes we have thoughts or beliefs that are just below the conscious level, and they can really affect us. We may not be noticing them because we're kind of like that fish in water. We've heard it so much that it's just always there. But it can also, our subconscious can be pinging us where we have a flavor of an energy, but we don't realize what's going on. So if you can, just start asking yourself, if I could hear myself speaking to myself, what might I hear? And maybe the washing up is like, "Look what a mess you made. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to clean up this big mess," or like, "Why did why I have to do this every day?" This is like there might be beliefs there that are hidden. So I just wanted to invite yourself to say, "If I could hear this, if I could hear or notice what was going on that's making me feel so low energy, what might it be?" Because we want to root out those subconscious blocks, and like Rick said, let us be our body be an instrument for getting these things that matter accomplished and created and experienced in this world. I really, if you can invite your subconscious to let you know and just write them down because again, it will disappear. And if you can bring them, we would love to work with you next time on clearing those blocks so you can really create what matters.
Thank you all, and take care.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.